You are now tuned in to the Chaotic Culture Podcast.
It's the KKP on your mother flipping airways. Hear the name ringing through the halls and the stairways. You were listening to a pod that can segue all the latest topics guaranteed to fill your headspace. It's a safe place to voice your opinion. Say what you feel just like you're a kid again. Kid to pro and friends, black as obsidian. Chaotic culture, that's the world we living in. So what's the word?
Good morning, afternoon, and evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Chaotic Culture Podcast, the pod where chaos rules and black culture is supreme. This podcast will deep dive into modern black culture and how millennials and Gen Z and Gen Alpha can navigate the crazy parts from finances, black business highlights, black professionals, community, content creators, home ownership, HBCUs, sports, black nerdom, anime, wrestling, and especially black music. If it encompasses black culture, we are going to cover it. Live from the 410, I am the host and creator of the Chaotic Culture Podcast. This is your boy, Kid the Pro, a.k.a. the Calculated Millennial, a.k.a. the Encore presentation.
Can I get an encore? Do you want more?
A.k.a. your favorite toxic adjacent king, Kid the Poet, Kid the Closer, all that good stuff. 843 is me. Baltimore's the place to be. Always chaotic, never toxic most days. And back again, once again, with your favorite black culture highlights and black culture shenanigans. I hope everybody has had a good week so far. I hope that you were enjoying yourselves. I hope that everybody who went out to DreamCon had a good time. I'm a little jealous. I'm hating right now because I hate all of y'all. The fact that y'all got a chance to go to DreamCon and I didn't, I'm a little upset about that. But you know what it is? I'm just glad that all of y'all got a chance to have fun, to see some of my favorites. I'm just a little upset because, you know, Cree Summer was there and I didn't get to see her. I'm a little mad at that. I am also just a little upset that I did not get a chance to see Coach Contra because apparently they were out there. That's another. I don't have the saxophones getting louder. I really wanted to play that clip because I really would play that right now. But in the meantime, I'm hating y'all. But I do hope that y'all enjoyed yourselves. It looks like DreamCon was definitely one for the books and that there was a lot to do this time around. And everybody had a good time. Just mad that I couldn't be there this year. But, you know, new job, new crib. Unfortunately, bills had to be paid. And, you know, funds was limited. So I had to make sacrifices, man. But still, ultimately, DreamCon is going to be the move for next year. I'm actually kind of glad that I got a chance to take a year break. It gives me some time to realign. It gives me some time to focus on other things and other projects. For example, obviously, as you know, with this podcast, we are once again partnering with Blurred Nine, aka Divine Nine Blurs. I would say that is one of, I don't want to call it again affiliation because I don't get paid to do this, but I am a part of Blurred Nine. And of course, you are a Divine Nine member and you are a fan of comic books. It could be TV shows, it could be anime, cosplay, whatever the case may be. If you are a black nerd that is a member of a D9 organization, please be sure, of course, that you hit me up so that way we can include you in the Discord. All right. With that, as far as my mental health, I can't say anything else for real. I would say that this weekend has been really refreshing. I got a chance to celebrate my baby cousin's first birthday, and I'm just so glad and so thankful because she truly is a miracle baby. I'm not going to divulge all the secrets and everything that goes on within family and whatnot, but yes, just know that I love my little cousin Imani, and I'm so glad that we got a chance to celebrate her turning 1 year old. By the time this episode drops, she will officially be 1. So big shout out to her. I'm glad I got a chance to see my big cuz and his family again. Glad I got a chance to see my aunt, my other cousins, my little cousin. I'm just so thankful and so appreciative of my village and my family. They mean the world to me. My mom and my godmom also came up for the birthday celebration and they stayed with me. So I am just so thankful to have them in this space with me. It has been such a joy and a pleasure. It's a lot of driving, you know, because unfortunately where we had to go was an hour and a half away from where I live. And yeah, it's not that many miles, but it's still quite the drive. So a little worn out on that part, but you know, it is what it is. thankful still. I had a great time, and I couldn't ask for anything more than what I experienced this weekend. Didn't get a chance to go to DreamCon, but in place of that, I had my family. And you know what? I think that's a little more important. So,
Oh my God!
that was the wrong button, but either way, y'all know what it is, man. I'm just so thankful for the family that I do have. Now, the main reason why I wanted to drop an episode this week is for mainly two reasons. We all say that death comes in threes, but there've been a lot of passings that have happened as of late. And when my last episode dropped, unfortunately, we were hit with the news of the Nolan Wells passing, and I really wish that I could have discussed that more when I was recording, but unfortunately, things were happening too fast for me to really react to that story, and it's really hard for me to actually talk about that situation because it seems that the police and the courts are saying one thing, but we're getting new evidence about this situation. Basically, this young black gentleman by the name of Nolan Wells went with a group of friends, and you can guess what color the friends were. And they all went to, I guess, take a boat trip, really, to an island. And it was just really suspicious that he said, according to his friends, he said that he was going to stay on the island by himself without his phone, which is really crazy. And next thing we know, the police found his body washed ashore along the river in Mississippi. Now, there are some people saying that there was no liquid in his lungs or no water in his lungs, which is really crazy. And I'm trying to figure out what the heck does that mean. There's also a case of you won't never find a teenager without his phone. Apparently, his friends had his phone, and in one of the last recorded videos, you could hear him say, "Yo, give me my freaking phone, bro. What are you doing?" There are so many mysteries surrounding this death, and it just seems like there's a lot of cover-ups going on. So I'm thankful that the family is asking for independent autopsies, and they're doing an independent investigation outside of Mississippi to really determine what happened. It's just so frustrating because, you know, I'm kind of glad that my parents raised me the way that they did because frankly, I'm gonna have to raise my children the same way. Is that like if I have teenagers, I'm hoping I have kids, y'all. But when and if I have kids, and they are teenagers, and they decide that they're going on a trip with their friends, one, if they're under the age of 18, I'm gonna ask, okay, are these people's parents gonna be there? Two, I'm I hate to do this, but I'm gonna ask, are there any other black people going? Because too many times I've seen instances where the person who was the only black in a group of friends mysteriously dies. It doesn't make any sense to me. And frankly, I'm scared. I'm sick to my stomach. I'm worried about that family. I personally just don't know how to really take it all in because I could only imagine if that was my kid. And I hate that I have to be not a strict parent, but I hate that I'm going to have to be a little more selective as far as what my kid does out in the street. Just because if I do have a kid, I'm going to be worried about them, especially the way that these deaths have been happening, man. It's just, I just cannot understand it. I have seen too many of these instances happen where a black person goes out with a group of white friends. The white friends come back, but the black person doesn't. Harrowing, frightening, scary. And I really, really hate that I have to think like that. But we live in a time and era where a lot of people's racism is pretty much coming back to the forefront instead of being hidden. Now it's all out in the open because they are practically being motivated to do so. Social media allows them to be and act this way. And unfortunately, the person in the White House and all the grandstanding that he does has allowed for people to just come out of the woods with their blatant racism. And then it somehow makes the covert racism even worse. Now, I don't want to make any assumptions because this is still an ongoing case. But just know, as somebody who, had white friends, but ultimately was told, like, if ain't no black people gonna be around, you may not want to be around. I'm just saying, look, I grew up in South Carolina. I know what it is. And so I'm thankful that I had plenty of people who were skin folk and kin folk to make sure that they looked out for me. And that's not to say that this kid did not, but I just don't want to ever put my kids in that position. And I hope that I never have to. And I'm not blaming that on the parents. I'm just saying, oh, if my kid come up to me and say, hey, I'm going with a group of friends, I'm going to ask him. I'm going to ask him that question, like, okay, how many of us is going to be there? Are the parents going to be there? Oh, the parents ain't going to be there? No. Oh, ain't going to be nobody of us there? No. And I'm going to give him a reason why. This story is going to be one of those reasons. And there are plenty of other stories out there that are like that. So with that, I want to move on to another passing that happened. There's been quite a few, honestly. I just had received word this morning that Sam Neill of Jurassic Park passed away. Wow. Listen, I know that death comes in threes, but goodness gracious, it seems like we're getting hit back to back to back. But he was 78 years old. I'm not exactly sure what he passed of, so I'm going to bring up this article to see if there is any indication of what might have happened. But let me go ahead and share the screen. And there we go. So let's read along. Oh, let me click off the ad real quick. Sam Neill, the genre-spanning New Zealand actor best known for his starring role in the Jurassic Park movies, has died, his family said Monday. He was 78. Sam was surrounded by family and passed with the dignity that has characterized his whole life, family said in a statement on Instagram. The loss was sudden and unexpected, but blessed by the fact that Sam remained cancer-free. So I know that he had overcome cancer. So that must have meant that there was another sickness that got him, which is crazy. The family said in a statement which did not specify a cause of death. Neil, who died in Sydney, had announced in April that he was cancer-free after several years of treatment for blood cancer. He found international acclaim for his portrayal of paleontologist Dr. Alan Grant in the 1993 Steven Spielberg film Jurassic Park, a role he reprised in subsequent movies. New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon praised Neil's impact on films in New Zealand and abroad, calling him one of the greats. That is just, I'm not going to continue the article there because there's three other things that I want to discuss. But it's just really crazy that some of the actors that we grew up watching are now passing. And yeah, we getting old, y'all. Man, time is crazy. There was another actor who just passed actually very, very recently, and that was Wai Shing Ho. And for those who don't know who Wai Shing Ho is, she was the actress who played Madame Gao in the MCU. So she was a part of the Hand. And matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, she was one of the fingers of the Hand. So rest in peace to Wai Shing Ho. It is crazy. She was 82. So yes, I know that she's lived a long and fruitful life. It's just crazy that these people that I'm watching in real time are passing. And yeah, it's really gonna be an episode about death, y'all, but also about something that I wanted to like really pinpoint in the pursuit of power. But I'm gonna get to that topic a little later. One of another passing that has happened that I'm actually not. I don't want to. I'm not celebrating this death at all. I want y'all to understand that we here at the Chaotic Culture Podcast do not celebrate somebody's passing. However, there are some people in life when they pass, you feel indifferent towards because of how they lived. And well, this person on Twitter was very infamous for some very, very, very controversial statements that he made. Now, the person I'm talking about, his name is Mike Menard, or Menard, I guess that's how you say his last name. And he was the person behind the infamous Twitter page known as Sun underscore I'm Sleep. And in the headline, it would say that rabbit guy. Now, before I get into details on what happened to him, let me just say this. You really have to be careful what you say. And I'm really talking to those people who use words to try to get reactions. More specifically, those who will go on and make racist, homophobic, xenophobic, or any kind of phobic comments to other people. Now, you may ask why I preface that with this topic that I'm about to talk about. Well, here it is. Listen, I am wholeheartedly a believer of God don't like ugly, and also a believer of karma. What goes around comes around. What you put into the universe is what's going to come right back. When people on the internet get on your nerves and say, oh, they're just words. Why are you being offended by words? Those people just want an excuse to be hateful for any reason, because words do hurt. Whoever came up with that saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me or words will never hurt me, that is bull. I'm trying not to cuss this episode. My mama is in my house. I'm trying to keep the language to a minimal. But that being said, whoever came up with that actual saying didn't know what the hell they were talking about, because words can hurt, especially those that degrade you and make you feel less than what you are and make you feel less than human. Don't let anybody ever gaslight you by saying, oh, it's just words. Words shouldn't affect you. Man, get out of here with that. Sometimes words are worse than actually squaring up and throwing a fair one. Because at the end of the day, if I throw a punch, you know, that pain could be temporary, but you call somebody a name that degrades them or that dehumanizes them, that effect could last forever. I'm just saying. Like, if you're wondering why we get upset when people who are not black call us the N-word, if you don't understand the historical context behind why, then why are you even arguing with us? When you start calling people who are part of Alphabet Gang certain slurs like the F word or, you know, other rude and dangerous words that could be deemed as homophobic, what? Do you don't think that would not affect them psychologically? A psychological wound, in my opinion, is much worse than a physical one, because, again, you can recover from most physical wounds so long as it doesn't damage any of your internal organs. Or, you know, you get a limb or a finger or something amputated. But when it comes to psychological, when it comes to words, when it comes to their meaning and their context, those wounds may sometimes never heal. And that's why, unfortunately, you see a lot of people who self delete from this life. Now, again, this is actually not a story about someone being self deleted. This is a story about somebody who, unfortunately, was deleted by something that was not his hand. So let's get into the story of Mike Menard, aka Son I'm Sleep. All right, that's what he looked like. That's what he looked like, by the way. Make of that what you will. Infamous Twitter star at Son I'm Sleep made his name on social media platforms by hurling witty insults, some of which were often violent and homophobic. Son I'm Sleep, who some online say is named Mike Menard, was found shot dead inside his car in Florida this week, causing many online to react to the news. As reported by local outlet WSVN, Menard, 32, was found inside his vehicle in a Fort Lauderdale neighborhood home. Police responded to calls about a shooting around 4:25 a.m. local time on July 8th. When police arrived at the scene, they discovered Menard inside a white sedan, who was then pronounced dead at the scene by Fort Lauderdale police. While canvassing the area, officers located the victim in the driver's seat of a white sedan parked outside of his parents' home, located just east of Interstate 95, blocks away from Sunrise Boulevard. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Hours later, the man's father, Philip Menard, identified him as 32-year-old Mike Menard. Mr. Menard told the outlet that the family's home had been the target of vandalism and violence. In one instance, a tree on blaze. In another incident, the home was riddled with bullets. Surveillance video was captured on the night of Menard's death, which showed a lone gunman who carried out the act running from the scene and then driving away. So I'm not going to continue to read it because you can see like all the Twitter responses. But one of the things that I really just wanted to discuss was some of the tweets that he said. Um, there were often times where he would tweet at people, saying "shut up, you." They also had fat phobic comments. He told one Twitter user, "Shut up, you fat f word. I hope you delete." And he said a whole bunch of other crazy stuff. There was one time that even I got dragged into the vortex, and the way that this happened is I guess you could say it's kind of funny, but I'm just like, interesting. And what ended up happening is that he went online saying, "Oh, I'm glad Drake is coming back. Nobody likes that song, Luther anymore." Basically, how Luther gonna be like, we tired of that. Ish, mind you, it's been a year and a half. Obviously, Luther was top of the charts in 2025. It's 2026 now, and the fact that he still had to bring that up. And all I said was, why are y'all so gung ho about defending an artist who doesn't know you from a can of paint? If you can't recognize good music just because you are loyal to one artist over the other, then honestly, I question your music taste. I really said his music taste was diarrhea. Now, I talked about his music taste. You know how he responded? "Oh, you one of them fraternity niggas," excuse my language, "who got his behind beat just to get letters on a jacket. Oh, that's neat." So now we're coming after my fraternity. So now we're coming off after decisions I made. How do you even know what I went through just because I decided to join a fraternity? What gave you the idea that I went through something like that? And even if I did, so that has nothing to do with my music taste. We were talking music. You got personal. And now I'm just like, welp. That being said, not even 48 hours before his untimely demise, he retweeted or quoted a tweet that talked about the young lady whose 8 children were killed in New Orleans by her, her husband, I guess. And it was something about that it was something saying that, women were emotional, but then it just was like, well, look what the man did. He literally deleted 8 of his own babies. And do you know what this dude, Son I'm Sleep, had the nerve to retweet? He said, I think the saying goes, cheaper to sleep her. I cannot tell you how offensive that comment is. Like, really, dude? And maybe he's one of those people who just went on Twitter and goes on Twitter to get a reaction. Maybe that was what his day job was, because apparently, if we go deep into this dude's life, he had a job and lost it and then moved back in with his parents. So, mind you, you are a jobless person chronically on Twitter talking cash ish to a wider range of people who don't know you. Xenophobic, fatphobic, and just overall crazy comments to people. You really caused real harm on the internet, dude. Now, this is not me trying to slander the fact that he's jobless, because unfortunately we live in an economy where the job market is trash. At the same time, the fact that you are chronically online says a lot more about you than it does about me. And I really can't put it into any more context than that. The fact that he even had the absolute gall to tweet something like cheaper to sleeper, I guess, that is insane. And what did I say earlier? God don't like ugly. And so that karma came swinging back. You over here commenting on 8 past children, 8 murdered children. And unfortunately, your life was taken. I'm not one to dance on people's graves. However, I am one to say, you dance with the devil always gonna win. I'm also gonna say, how you live is also how you die. And unfortunately for this guy here, that karma came swinging back. Now, it wasn't the words on Twitter that unfortunately took him out, because according to his dad, apparently he was getting caught up in the wrong crowd. His dad was saying that. Mind you, this is a 32-year-old man with a child getting caught up in the wrong crowd. So it could have been a drug deal went wrong. It could have been he said something to somebody that he had no business saying. I don't know what the case may be. But whatever it was, apparently it was not good. And unfortunately, he ended up in a body bag after that. Again, I don't dance on people's graves. I don't speak ill of the dead. But what was that quote? There have been some obituaries that I've read with great delight. I'm not even gonna say that. I'm just gonna say, you do dirt, dirt gonna do you. Which is kind of funny, because that actually relates to my last topic for today. But before I get into that, just give me 1 second, y'all. I will be right back. All right, y'all. I'm back. I apologize. I actually had to step away real quick. It was getting a little stuffy in here. But anyway, really can't say anything else about this particular topic other than, when you never really know when your number's called. So I always say that when you are out here, just try to do good work, try to be good to people, try to take care of the sick, take care of the poor, take care of family, take care of yourself, because you never know when your number will be called. And that is a good segue into my final topic for tonight, and that is the passing of Lindsey Graham. Now, in a podcast about Black culture, you're probably wondering, why am I deciding to talk about Senator Lindsey Graham of all people? Well, for starters, of course, he is or was the senator from South Carolina, and it makes sense that me as a South Carolinian talk about this particular person. Now, aside from the fact that he voted on policy that harmed people of Alphabet Gang while being closeted Alphabet Gang himself, aside from the fact that he was basically a war hawk, aside from all of that, I will never forget the one, I guess, semi interaction that I had with Lindsey Graham, and it stuck with me forever for the wrong reasons. And I'll get into this story like this. When I was well, I guess technically I'm still a Boy Scout because when you become an Eagle Scout, you really never leave scouting. But before I earned the rank of Eagle Scout, and I was just still in Boy Scouts, as part of one of my badges, I actually wrote a letter to Senator Graham. Now, mind you, this is all the way back in like '05, '06. So yeah, I'm already showing my age, but that being said, I still wrote this letter asking him why were we still at war with Iraq? Because it made more sense to me that we should still be pursuing, the person who was behind the attacks of 9/11. I got to be real careful how I word these. So, my whole thing was there are no weapons of mass destruction. There really was no real reason for us to be in Iraq anyway. I understand, that you wanted to topple the regime of Saddam Hussein, but truthfully, what did that have to do with 9/11? Those are two completely different entities. Why are we focusing on the war in Iraq and not the Taliban and the person who was in charge of a certain terrorist group, which of course I want. And I wasn't surprised by his answer because basically he did all of the right wing talking points, talking about the need to, you know, fight the war on terror and make sure that Islam regimes are toppled, and also just having this idea that somehow Iraq was involved and that they were enemies that needed to be defeated, and things of that nature. And it just really stuck with me because it really didn't give me any details on why are we in Iraq to start? Why when we have a target that may be in Afghanistan or Pakistan? But that answer really just kind of blew my mind because it was like you didn't really answer the question. You use talking points to dance around it. And that really left an impression on me because later on, I saw just how Lindsey Graham reacted when Trump was on his way to becoming the Republican nominee the first time, and how Lindsey Graham was literally a staunch opponent against it and saying that if we nominate Trump, we will get destroyed for it and we will deserve it. Just for him to turn around and cozy up to the orange one. And now all of a sudden they were best buddies. Now, all of a sudden, Lindsey Graham turned on his own values just to cozy up to the White House. And basically for what? For power. Because as soon as Trump stepped in the second time, obviously that meant more responsibilities for Lindsey Graham. Now he's ahead of the Senate Judicial Committee. Now he has a position of leadership. But if you look at his track record from the time he first became a senator after Strom Thurmond passed to the time of Lindsey Graham's own passing, all you see is a person who would betray his own values to fall in line and to accumulate power. And that told me a lot about the character of Lindsey Graham. and why me as an individual, unfortunately, cannot celebrate his life. Now, mind you, once again, I do not dance on people's graves. However, I also will not lie on your grave either. And based on my experience, as a South Carolinian, I can honestly say that I am indifferent. I pray for his family. I pray that they are comforted in this time of grieving. And at the same time, I don't wish death on anybody. I don't have a heaven or hell to put you in. But I can look at the life that you lived and be critical of that. Because just because a person dies does not mean I have to all of a sudden turn around and celebrate your life, when all you've done your entire life was make life harder for those who were underserved in South Carolina. Whether that be Alphabet Gang, whether it be people of color, Black people especially, or whether it be adopting certain policies just so you can gain more power. That brings me really to the end of this episode, because what I really want to discuss is like the pursuit of power. And I think that as people try to gain power, they are willing to throw away whatever values that they had initially just so they can feel important, or just so that they can have a measure of responsibility or rule, excuse me, or whatever the case may be. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And in the case of Lindsey Graham, I think that it corrupted absolutely. You gave up and flip-flopped your values on Trump just so you can have a modicum of power. And unfortunately, you won't get to live to see the fruits of your labor. Now, all I can say is the way he died is also very gruesome. I do hope and pray that for those of you who are not like active, if you're not active in the gym, or if you're not, working out or doing something to stay active as far as working out, please do so. Because unfortunately, the way Lindsey Graham passed was not just a simple heart attack. Basically, his arteries ruptured. They were so hardened to the point that they ruptured. There was no putting back that heart once that happened. And so I just hope that each and every one of you who are listening, just do what you can to stay healthy. That's all I can tell you. Go run, go to the gym, stretch, exercise at home, do something to stay active. You only needed to do it for maybe 20 to 30 minutes a day. It don't got to be an hour. It don't got to be 45 minutes. It don't got to be 2 hours. Just a little bit of exercise goes a long way. And back to my point on the pursuit of power, it's really just not worth it, y'all. I know that some of us like to feel important and want those leadership positions and want to lead something or be in control of something, but truth be told, man, it's not worth it. I've always been a proponent of those who often do not seek leadership often make the best leaders. We're not seeking to lead. Of course, we are built to lead. We want to be leaders. We want to be built to lead when the time is necessary. But in my honest opinion, those who don't seek it, you're not actively trying to pursue power, you just want to do good, often make for the best leaders. And that's why I try to tell everybody that I can, just try to live a good life. Help people in need, help your family, help the poor, help the sick. Take care of those who need to be taken care of. Those who need, and then ultimately take care of yourself as well. If you do good by the total stranger and you do good by your family, I promise you, you will live a blessed life. Now, once again, I don't have a hell to put Mike Menard or Lindsey Graham in, but I just want to end this episode off by saying sometimes you just don't know when your number's called. And that's why it's always important to do good in this life. Because when you do evil, well, you see the results. In any case, guys, that's going to be a wrap for me. Not even a whole hour for this episode. But I appreciate you tuning in to me and my thoughts on these passings. Once again, I really, really pray for Nolan Wells' family. I hope that they get the justice that they are seeking and that they need. And for the families of those who have just passed on, my heart and my thoughts and prayers are with you all. And for the, unfortunately, the passing of Lindsey Graham, again, you never know when your number is called. With that being said, I'm going to get up out of here. But before I do, I just want to do the rundown really quickly, podcast rundown. Please, once again, be sure that you check out Inside the Mind of a Blurred. That's the gang over on the other side. I know a lot of I didn't go, and again, I'm a little jealous of them, but I'm glad that they had a good time. So shout out to the gang. Big shout out to Mike Check, Waifu, that is Polo and Tel doing their thing. Once again, they have been one of the longest running podcasts in our group of people who have been doing podcasts for such a long time, and they have been really, really successful with talking about the niche and seasonal anime. So big shout out to them. Big shout out, of course, to Dad Needs to Talk with Rob, the father of Vash. Big shout out to Geek Set Podcast, who was also at Dream. Big shout out to Anime Junkies 3 Reason Podcast. Big shout out to Black Geek Energy with Jardo and DeMarcus. And of course, a big shout out to Hip Hop Vibes Podcast with my brother AJ. And of course, for our Black authors, big shout out to Kay Renee and of course Elena Graham, aka Elena. For our content creators, big shout out to the Off Black Mag team, who of course Aaron is at the head. Big shout out to Aaron. Big shout out, of course, to Cerberus Entertainment. Shout out to Tatted Poodle and the Kichi Gamer, who are streamers. Of course, I saw that Q, aka the Kichi Gamer, she had a big DreamCon. I am so proud of her. One day I will get her on this podcast if she stopped playing with me. Otherwise, Q, I'm looking at you. Geechee, I'm looking at you. Listen. Do not make me come to Charleston. Please do not make me fly down there to find you. I love you. I promise you I do. Anyway, also shout out to our other streamers, Shelby, aka Simple Janine, with Simply Baked and Rose Let's Travel. Big shout out to Toasty Marshmallow and of course the Corner 5. Big shout out to Simone, Courtney 5, Chris and Sham. Big shout out to Yup, That's D. Big shout out, of course, to Scuba Steven Alpha with Blur Mind Productions. And of course, shout out to Carabis, who also had a successful DreamCon as well. And of course, shout out to Cleopatra, who was also at DreamCon as well. For our Black artists, big shout out to, of course, Nasa, Scoozy, Jack Unionfield, Me, Ellis Quinn, RJ Stackhouse, Quarter, Tyrone Leak Jr., Ariel Lachelle, Zach Hines and Fortresses, Elena, Zainab, and Imogen. And for our Black businesses, big shout out to Fresh Nurse, Righteous Minds. Big shout out to Studio Maho with Pat and Yin, who also had, of course, a successful DreamCon. And in conjunction with that, of course, big shout out to my friend Daphne Benford Smith and Hole and Law. Big shout out, of course, to Concept Moon. She designs too with Aaron, Black Magic / Lip Moss with Low T. H4 Creative with Zenobia, Real Estate Stone by Meredith, Soul by Bell by Mariah, and Scrappy Sentiment with my co-host Sappy. So with that, I'm gonna get up out of here, y'all. This has been a great episode. Once again, be sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the Chaotic Culture Podcast on your favorite DSP. Be sure, of course, that if you are watching this video on YouTube, that you like the video, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Please make sure that you make some positive comments. Of course, the more comments we get, the more that help the algorithm. Please, once again, I appreciate all of your support. Once again, if you want to follow us, you can follow us on Facebook at Chaotic Culture Podcast. You can also follow us on X at Chaotic Culture 1. You can follow us on Blue Sky at chaoticculture.bsky.social. And of course, you can follow us on Instagram, Threads, and on TikTok at Chaotic Culture Pod. You can follow me, Kat the Pro, that's K3D Pro, and on social media. Of course, you can follow my co-host Law at L.JR_96 on Instagram and Law96_ on X/Twitter. Of course, you can follow Sappy at Scraps14 on all social media. And of course, you can follow Scuba Steve at Scuba Steve 1428 on all social media. So I think that's a wrap, guys. So this has been another edition of the Chaotic Culture Podcast. So until next time, folks, remember, embrace the culture, chaos rules, be blessed, be safe, God is love, and we are out of here. Deuces.
So what's the word?
You are now tuned in to the Chaotic Culture Podcast. And